I'm back. It's the 8th of July 2021 and I've just been to the allotment again. We've had a difficult year this year. In May it was cold and windy and it set everything back. And then in June we had lashings and lashings of rain, which was really good from a watering point of view, but it did give the broad beans rust spot, which has kind of stopped them in their tracks. And the gooseberries have not grown very big. I think they probably go by the calendar rather than the weather, and they're just not going to grow anymore now. But you can't win with everything. These are masses of little potatoes which I've dug up. They were the volunteers and they were going great guns, but they were getting so big and floppy that they were obstructing the other plants that were trying to grow around them. So I've pulled them out of the ground and we've got a massive supply of little new potatoes now to be going on with until the main crop gets ready. This here is horsetail. It's started to grow in and around the allotments quite prolifically, and I just read yesterday that this can be used for dishwashing. I'm looking for other ways of dishwashing because my bottle of dishwashing liquid is finished and the shop that does the refills appears to have closed. And it's plastic free July and I don't want to buy more plastic bottles if I can find a way around it. So I don't know if this horsetail has been used for washing dishes just because it's a bit rough and scrubby, like a scouring pad, or if it actually has saponin in it, but we'll see. And over here we have a bundle of nettle stalks. Nettle stalks, you say? Is this woman absolutely crazy? Well, I probably am, but I have become very interested in prehistory, in lifestyles that take place without the use of technology and agriculture. And so I've been looking at the nettles on the allotment and thinking it's about time they came out, and why don't I have a go at making nettle fibre? So I believe nettles have been used as fibre in the past, because I remember a fairy story from when I was young. We had a book with a story of, I think a girl was called Elise, and she had 7 brothers and she married a king, but then her brothers were under a spell. They were turned into wild swans, and she was told that the only way she could rescue her brothers was by going on a vow of silence. So she couldn't tell anyone what she was up to, and she had to make fabric out of nettles. So she had to spin them, I suppose, and then weave them, and then she had to make shirts, and it was going to be 1 shirt for each brother, and only when she had finished making all 7 shirts was she going to be able to redeem her brothers and talk again. So she sets to harvesting these nettles and presumably getting stung dreadfully. This is the main thing I remember about this story, is how could she possibly put up with all that constant stinging? And the other thing I remember from the story was wondering how on earth did she actually make shirts from nettles, which seem a frightfully unpromising sort of material. But I have learnt that people can extract a fibre from these, and I suppose if you can extract a fibre you can spin it maybe a bit like flax and then weave it and then make shirts, but you can understand it would be a very long process. So what happened to this girl was it took her so long to do this task, and she couldn't talk all the time, so her new husband thought she was a witch or crazy or something, and in the end he said, if you're not going to talk to me, I'm going to have you burnt at the stake. And she couldn't save herself because she wanted to save her 7 brothers, which seems frightfully self-sacrificing of her. But anyway, she almost finished the last shirt. She'd got 1 sleeve left to go, and then she was going to be burnt at the stake. And so just at the crucial moment, the 7 swans flew down and she quickly flung a shirt over each one of them. And only the last one kept one of his wings because one of the sleeves was missing. And do you know what? I can't remember whether the king forgave her and restored her to grace, or whether she was burnt at the stake and the king said, oh well, sod that, not my problem. Weird, isn't it? Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and extract the fibre from these and see if I can make string. So the first thing you have to do is flatten them, apparently. I must say I'm finding that these stings are more long-lived than I thought they would be. I let these nettles wilt on a heap for 3 days or so because I thought if they're wilted they may lose their potency, but they didn't. They still sting pretty fiercely. So when I was stripping them, I was wearing rubber gloves to protect my hands. I've still got stung everywhere. You can see that this would take an awfully long time. First you've got to crush and flatten every single stalk, and then you've got to split it open and get the woody bit out the middle of it, and then what's left is the fibres. Then you've got to process the fibres. So you're supposed to split the thing open with your thumbnail, and then inside there's supposed to be a sort of woody bit which you can then peel out. It's not, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the woody bit. There we go. Ooh. Don't know what happens when you come to a node. Does the lovely string just break off? No, it goes over the node. So, how about that then? I've got some fibres. I guess I could do it while I was watching television perhaps. It's going to take a long time though. The allotment is looking very lush at the moment. What with all the weeds I haven't got round to pulling out, and they're like knee high by now. And the volunteer potatoes flopping and flapping everywhere. I quite like the wild look. When I pulled all these nettles out and put them on a pile and left them, there was a whole lot of other weeds there with them as well. It was a huge pile, and I left them 3 or 4 days, as I said, thinking that the nettles would lose their potency. And when I went there today to lift the nettles off and put the rest on the compost heap, I found a whole load of busy ants working away in the middle of it already, and there was a slow worm all curled up and having a lovely time in its new nest. Only it had to go and find another one because I was moving everything. But it just goes to show how burgeoning with life an allotment is. This is my little hanger of nettle strands that I've got to dry out. I think you can spin with them while they're still wet, but then you probably find that when they do dry out you will have gaps in your spinning. And this is what I have left to do. Okay, so now to see if the horsetails make a good scouring pad for my omelette pan, which is full of stuck-on egg and probably not the most promising thing to try it on. Ooh. Actually, after having given it a bit of a soak, this horsetail is scrubbing it up fairly well. And you don't want to get lots of little bits of horsetail down the sink, so I think what I'm going to have to do is tip it outside. Oh, I don't know, they're not coming off really. Not much anyway. There's nothing coming up like bubbles or something that would indicate that it had saponin coming out of it. So I don't know about that. I think it may just be that it's used as a scourer because it has a sort of scoury texture about it. But it's actually pretty good. And the other thing is, I wonder what you do, you know, from day to day, from week to week. Do you pick lots of horsetails and dry them out, and will they still work just as well? Or do you have to pick them fresh each time? It's certainly biodegradable, unlike those plastic thingies. The only place that hasn't been well doused with rain is the polytunnel. So I'll give it to a tomato plant. The tomato plants are coming along. They have tomatoes, but they're still quite small. Let's see if I can find one to show you. Oh yeah, look, there they are. Minuscule. What I find interesting about tomatoes is when you get served a salad, you traditionally get tomatoes and cucumbers together. You always get tomatoes and cucumbers together. But since I've started growing cucumbers with my tomatoes, I find that they don't actually become ready at the same time. The cucumbers are already ready and the tomatoes are still green. See? There's a lovely little rich cucumber for our salad tonight. That's enough for today. I'll let you know how the nettle string comes on, and perhaps next time I'll give you a little tour of the allotment and show you all the wonderful weeds growing in it. Bye for now.